And Luke could probably share for a half hour, and he actually did share with me for about a half hour about all the cool ways God worked. But Luke, just give us an update, what you guys did down in Brazil, and tell us about coming home and what you guys did.
Is this like Q&A style?
Yeah.
I thought you told me to prepare like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I'll leave.
Go on,
okay.
get. Who's this guy? So myself and 17 other people from the church just spent 2 weeks in Brazil visiting our missionaries, Ro and Susan Soares. And to say they were ecstatic that we were there is an understatement. They were just so excited. Every time I saw Susan, this is probably just Susan in general, but she had the biggest smile on her face and just kept telling me she was so encouraged by Northlake being there, which was just super awesome. But they work for an organization called Athletes in Action. And those of you who aren't familiar with Athletes in Action, their whole goal is to use sports to take the gospel across the world. So the headquarters is actually in Ohio, and they started Brazil Athletes in Action, like, when did they say? It's like 70s? I don't know. The old missionary there, he spoke Portuguese, and he talked for a long time. And it was all being translated, and let's be honest, I just lost focus a lot. There was a lot being translated, and that takes a lot on your brain. But so we were there for 2 weeks, and the first week was training. This was Ro and Susan and all the missionaries from Athletes in Action in Brazil teaching us their mission. Here's what we're going to do, and this is the community project. So that's what we were doing, was the community project, and the whole goal was to focus on a city in Brazil and partner with local churches to go in and help and teach them and equip them to use sports to do outreach in their community. So we were partnering with 5 churches in Curitiba, which is in the southeast of Brazil. It was cold and rainy. I know, those of you guys are like, what? Brazil's warm. Yeah, we thought that too. So it was very cold and rainy, which, not gonna lie, some negative thoughts got in the brain, like, why did I leave Bellingham in the middle of the summer for more winter? I don't know, but we did. But it was a really good time. And these 5 churches, some of them were super hungry to learn. So I'm gonna be speaking from the perspective of one of these 5 teams that went out, and we had Northlakers on every single one of these teams. The church that we got to serve was right in the middle of a favela, which are like the poor communities in Brazil. It's like the stereotypical picture you get when you see a hillside full of just one building smashing into the other, stacked on the other. You don't know where one starts or one ends. And our church was kind of right in the middle of these communities, and they had 2 soccer fields that touched the church. And then the pastor's house touched the other side of the park. This was an older congregation, probably like 20 people, but they were so excited to have missionaries come and teach them how to do ministry using soccer, or as they call it, futebol. Not football, futebol. They have some weird accents in Portuguese. Futebol is what they always said. So they were really excited to learn how to use futebol to reach their neighborhood. And did you guys know that kids in South America love soccer? Yeah. No, you don't know. Soccer is life. Their favorite team is Corinthians in the southeast of Brazil. They pronounce it something different, but they gave me a jersey. It says Corinthians, and I showed them my Bible, and they were like, oh, my favorite team's in the Bible. I love God. It was awesome. It was mind-blowing for them. But we went into this community after spending a week in training, and the whole goal was to go and run sports clinics and soccer tournaments and run little games for kids and give them popcorn, and then sit them down and share our testimonies, share the gospel. We had all these bracelets and all these different methods on how we shared the gospel. And so again, I'm speaking from one of the 5 churches, but I just want to share with you, we kind of kept a running total of the amount of people exposed to the gospel and those who made a decision to follow Christ. So between the 5 teams, there were 580 people exposed to the gospel over the 1 week that we did outreach. And of the, yeah, that's great. And of the 580 exposed, 103 people made a decision to follow Jesus for the first time. So that's pretty cool. So God did a lot of awesome things through our church and our people and the Brazilian people that we met. We were definitely like the outlier in Brazil. And whenever I would get out of the van, when I showed up, the van's a whole different story. But those of you who've seen the video, the door fell off. It's a whole long story. But every time I would get out of the van, just from the tops of the community, all I would hear is, Gringo! And the kids just come running out of the woodworks because they wanted to play soccer with a white guy. And they wanted to hear me speak English. They had no idea what I was saying. I had no idea what they were saying. But I wanted to share one more story with you guys. The missionary that we were working with specifically at our church, his name was Francisco. Everyone called him Fran. Fran talked a lot, and I had no idea what he was saying ever. But I knew that he loved me, and I knew that I loved him. And Fran, I thought I was bold. Like, I thought I just would say whatever I want to say and just whenever I want to say it. This man, no fear of anything ever. So he looks at me, and he hands me 2 pot pan lids that were way bigger than this. They're pans in Brazil. I have no idea what they're doing, but they can feed the masses, let me tell you. They hand me 2 pan lids, and they're like, you follow Fran. And I'm like, where are we going? And they're like, up into the favela. I was like, you want me to go up there? And they're like, yep. And so here's what we did. Fran was like, Frisbee, ping pong, fuchi ball. Come and play the fuchi ball. And so we were walking through the favelas, screaming. I have no idea what I'm saying, and I'm just banging pan lids together. And not everyone's receptive to this. Go figure. Walking through the community, a mother comes out and she's like, my babies are asleep. And Fran's like, stop. He's like, don't do this anymore. And so we keep walking. And then we run into this guy. And there's this guy smoking a cigarette outside of this little family's house. And Fran starts talking and talking and talking and talking. And I didn't have a translator out in the favela. So I have no idea what's going on, but I'm like, okay, I'm sure he's sharing the gospel. And then at one point, Fran's like, pastor. I'm like, I'm a pastor, okay. He's like, we're gonna pray for this man. I was like, awesome. So we pray for this guy, and then we go back. And when we got back, there were like 50 more kids at the soccer place, which was like, wow, they actually came out to play. But what I didn't know, what happened right in front of my eyes, I learned this later. We had just met the drug lord of the community. And the drug lord is the boss of the favela. Fran evangelized to him, and he gave his life to Jesus on the spot. Yeah. And so when we were praying for him to receive Christ. Didn't know that. So that was great. And then what I found out was he gave the word out to the community that something really cool was happening at the church. And so all the kids came out of the woodworks. Yeah, so it was a super awesome time. I'm one person of 17 others, and I just would really encourage you to stop someone who went on the trip, ask them how it went. We're going to be debriefing as a team and collecting more and more stories, and we'd love to share testimony with you guys in front of the church with what happened. The last thing I'd say, like my biggest takeaway for myself was just how encouraged Ro and Susan were to have Northlakers come and see them and support their ministry. And it just made me think, like, our missionaries are out there, and they've been there for 20 years. They're kind of on an island, and so we've been supporting them with finances and prayer, but it means something else to go and see your missionaries in action. So thanks.
Yeah.